We always want to grow. We always want to bring the right people to the right positions. Yet the dynamic of the environment where we are living doesn't allow us necessarily to have all the resources in time. The project manager is the most fluid profile and the most flexible profile on the whole job family catalog, that those skills, they don't change if I'm dealing with a finance project or with an HR project or with an R&D project.
Szeretettel üdvözlök mindenkit a mai PMO Klub podcastunkban. Vendégünk Adrian Pop lesz, akinek nemzetközi tapasztalata van Business Shared Service Centerekben, BSC-kben, projektmenedzsment területen. Azért hívtuk meg Adriánt, hogy beszéljen nekünk a külső projektmenedzserek alkalmazásáról a BSC területen, és azért őt, mert úgy gondoljuk, hogy hiteles ezen a területen, több projektmenedzsment szervezetet vezetett, és megfelelő információt, tudást tudunk tőle kapni. A mai epizódban angolul fogunk beszélni, úgyhogy hamarosan átváltunk, csatlakozzatok hozzánk a mai epizódban. Hi Adrian, thank you for joining us in this episode of PMO Klub podcast. Thank you for accepting the invitation.
Zoltán, thank you for having me here. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here next to you and look holistically at the BSA sector and how we are working together with our external partners.
I would start the discussion with a more generic question. First of all, your title. What is the role of an invoice automation lead and the global supplier enablement lead in the context of BSCs?
I think we'll not have enough time to cover all the points, but I will try to put it in a nutshell. What am I doing today together with my team? I have a global team where we are approaching our suppliers to embrace and utilize our new fully automated invoicing system. As most of the companies today, the major players, we look towards efficiency, how we can minimize the human interaction in our processes, make them much more leaner, much more agile, and as close as possible to full automation.
We talk about business service centers. So just for our audience, can you explain a little bit what a business service center, or by other words, BSCs, are doing and what is their purpose to exist, basically?
The BSCs, they are a relatively new form of additional business enablement units. They came into play fairly recently if we look at the lifespan of big corporations, and the main goal is to attract and use the skills, capabilities of a wider range available globally to enable the delivery of the business. Of course, there is, in any business model, there is also a cost consideration, but not only the cost, it's very important here, but also the talent. Most of the companies around the headquarters or in their original countries, they absorbed already all the talent. The talent pool gets minimized. Therefore, this hunger for knowledge and for talent helps us expand globally and identify the needed skills in other countries. Therefore, the BSCs came into play, and they are crucial points for any big corporation.
Yes, and basically I'm curious about the role of project managers in the BSCs. So what are typical functions and responsibilities of project managers within BSCs? And we know that you are working with external PMs. ProfExec also provides external PMs. Why do you work with external PMs? So what are the typical functions and why you use external PMs?
This brings me back to the sourcing strategy. In order to cover it, I will make a few steps back. On the same way how the talent pool, we covered it earlier, gets minimized when you are present on the market for a longer period, this starts to be noticed also in our center, in our service center. And in order for us to be able to deliver the best in the projects, we try to reach to strategic partners that they already have prestige regarding the resources that they are providing, and leverage in a partnership shape those skills that they are not ours, but they will enable us in achieving our targeted goals. And to get closer to your question, each company has their own strategy regarding the resource allocation and have their own metrics regarding FTE/external partner ratio. In our side, we always tried to keep it as close as possible to the ratio 80-20. We always want to grow. We always want to bring the right people to the right positions. Yet the dynamic of the environment where we are living doesn't allow us necessarily to have all the resources in time. And in these kind of scenarios, we like to reach out to external partners that we know we can count on the skills of the people that are sourcing us, and they can help us through short, medium, and even long-term type of projects.
Right. So basically, there is also a kind of gap management, I would say, because the number of projects are changing and doesn't make sense to keep all the stuff internally. Then you involve external PMs. And it can be also probably professional reason from time to time if you need some expertise from outside, which you don't have inside.
Definitely. Expertise is the key word that you brought on the table now. It is much easier for us to give a profile. We need somebody with this particular knowledge, with this particular experience, with a proven track record of successful delivery of projects within a certain scope. And that makes me the life much easier in recruiting and in identifying the right candidate.
How do external project managers collaborate with the stakeholders and the internal team? Is it difficult from your point of view to have external project managers? Probably not everybody knows already the organization. So how do you see this part?
I can give you my personal experience, not only the experience, but also my way of interacting with the people within my structure. Depending if they are FTEs or they are contractors, I do not differentiate between them. We all have the same goal. We are all together in the same direction. And you cannot have a full homogeneous trusted team as long as you make a differentiation. Therefore, also in the relation with our direct stakeholders and me personally in relation with contractors that are enabling us, I have absolutely no point of differentiation. They are as my people on a fixed term, and I'm fully responsible for their well-being.
I understood basically the benefits of having external PMs, what we talked about, and also how you treat them together with the team. But can be any challenges or drawbacks what maybe not necessarily you, but an organization can face when they bring an external project manager?
I think the most difficult part for each external, and here I'll make the bracket, depends a lot of the personality of each individual, but is the adaptation time in the company's culture. Each company, they have their own culture, they have their own values, they have their own ways of looking at certain situations. And for a newcomer, especially when you have the expectation, okay, you are fully skilled, you are the one who ticked all my boxes on the ideal candidate. The expectation for that person is that comes in, takes over the wheel and starts driving. Of course, until he manages or she manages to match the driving style to the arena can be a bit challenging. And based on my experience, that was the most challenging part for my collaborators, my contractors. Yet, depending on the personality, sooner or later, they understood what we value, how we work, how we like to run our business, and they accommodated and they embraced it.
Let's talk about a little bit about best practices and strategies, what you are using in managing the operations and the project managers. So basically, for example, if in the team there are external project managers and internals also, you mentioned that you try to treat them equally and to be part of the team. But how you make, for example, induction of the PMs if they are arriving? Do they get any support from you in order to get up and running? How they can cooperate with the internal teams? What kind of organizational meetings or setup you need in order that this runs smoothly?
Very good question. And I think you touched most of the stages for a successful introduction. And that all begins with the induction training. We have like 1.5 or 2 days where we present our company's culture, our company's ways of working, introducing the stakeholders and the scope of the project that they will be assigned to. There is basically no technical details or aspects within those 2 days. Of course, after testing all the accesses, making sure that from the technology perspective they are good to go, we introduce them to the team. And when I specify the team, I'm referring to 2 aspects. One, in the case of PMs, the PM community, the local PM community, and the other team, the project delivery team. They always have a person from both sides that they will act as their buddies. They introduce them through the activities, they give them the tips and tricks, they put them on the right level of knowledge and understanding where the project is sitting and what would be the next steps. And this buddy concept, it's running for the full month. They will always have somebody internally on the job that they can turn to with any kind of questions. The other person that supports with the integration, it's me. And I have a very transparent and a very strongly communicated open door policy. Independent on the time of the day, on the situation, they can reach, they can ask their question, and I can direct them left or right. Or might be cases where I don't have the answer. I will make the investigation and I will introduce him or her to the right person that needs to be connected. We make sure that we give all the tools and all the support needed for the person to deliver as expected. So these are the points and the stages that we make sure we have in place. And of course, another key point that I'm paying or we are paying very close attention to, in order for them to have that type of belonging feeling to the community, to the project, all the contractors are invited to the monthly team meetings. They are invited to the team buildings, to the team events. We want to help them understand even better why we are doing certain things. And by forming the group and bringing the group together, I am sure, and we are sure based on the experience, that the quality of the work that they are delivering, it is best standards.
As I understand, you are managing them pretty transparently. And also from my experience, if the project is, hectic, has a strong deadline and works in an agile way, then the management also should work in this way in order that is supporting the timelines and their way of working. So basically, I want also to ask, I understand how you are managing from client point of view, but what you would expect or what you expect from vendor point of view. If a vendor is allocating a project manager, how to manage them, what kind of support the certain resource should get from vendor point of view in an ideal or in a desired case?
Very good question. I think I very slightly touched this point when I described why we are looking towards the relation with external vendors. Bottom line, the people who work for your company, they support us, but they are your people. And we live in an extremely dynamic world. We have all type of methodologies available on the market. We have all type of ways to deliver a project. And when we make the wish list for the ideal candidate, we start specifying those. Okay, we need safe knowledge and experience. We need Scrum, maybe depending on the type of the project, very strong waterfall project delivery experience. And the expectation from our side is that the vendors make sure that the people are updated with the new trends of delivering projects that are now today on the market, and also the understanding not only on the project delivery methods, but also of technologies and ways how they can get better as individuals. This is an investment that any external provider or workforce provider company should make into their own people, because down the road, they will be the face of your company in relation with big, massive corporations. And we all know that constructive feedback has multipliable effect times 100 than a positive one. Yet when the positive feedbacks come and within our communities we are asked for recommendations, it is much easier to say, yes, please go to these guys. I'm working with them since a few years now. I had absolutely no issues. Everything delivered on site. So that's the main expectation, to keep the people aligned with the market trends.
Okay, I fully agree with this approach, because I also think that from vendor side, one value add is to look for the right PM and to allocate, but it's, from my point of view, not sufficient. Basically, it shouldn't be only a kind of body leasing, but that the resource is feeling also part of the company, the part of the vendor, and to get the necessary support, training, community with the vendor team as knowledge sharing and workshops and this kind of stuff. What I'm also wondering, basically, if you talk about the project manager and project manager in a BSc, are there any specific requirements in a BSc area towards a project manager in comparison to other type of companies, let us say local companies who are working only in one country, or depending on the sector, industrial sector? So are there any specific needs for a PM in order to be able to manage the project in a BSc area?
I would not necessarily see big differentiations between a BSc project manager or project manager taking care of a smaller local type of project targeting a smaller company. And why I'm saying that, because from my vision experience is project management can be applied, or project management methodologies can be applied independent of the size of the project or the scope of the project. Of course, it's one thing when you are dealing with a global project with a time zones coverage, and you need to have that flavor of identifying the right ways to communicate the same matter in 2 or 3 different ways, because you need to be aware of the cultural difference of your audience. You need to also find those time slots that will allow you to bring together the project team as much as possible. We all know that it's fairly difficult to bring Asia Pacific and North America together. Yet there is EMEA in the middle. So the way you set your ceremonies, the way you identify the right communication channel to address the message and to send the message properly and being embraced by your team, this is the part where the complexity comes. And it has much more with the soft skills of the project manager, not necessarily from the methodology implementation. If you stick to the methodology, no difference. 10 people in Hungary, project delivery team, 25 people globally, same methodology applies. The big difference comes from the soft skill, understanding the project team needs, supporting them, and also, if you want to take it one step higher, the stakeholders, they're also distributed all over. And it's much easier to bring together individual contributors that work together than when you want to bring together heads of departments that, anyway, their calendars are already 3 months in advance booked, and you need certain alignment discussions. So from here, I think the difference.
Basically, the stakeholder management and team management also in a local company. You mentioned about the time zones, but also bringing together them. I fully agree. But this kind of always virtual meeting with certain stakeholders who are abroad, it makes also challenging, I believe, right?
I would say it was challenging 2020, 2021. Now, please accept my joke. Thank you for COVID. This kind of remote type of collaboration, today it's part of regular business. We stopped feeling that need of human interaction in regards of delivering the task. The mindset of all the parties and all the people involved within the project delivery, they're very much aligned. I stopped feeling this kind of virtual environment as an obstacle more than 2 years now. It runs so smooth, so natural, that it makes me question or wonder why we didn't do this since forever. But in a way, it is difficult to bring the people together for celebration parts, because even after each project implementation or go live, we try to have small celebration activities. Of course, the feeling is a bit different when we talk about the social part of interaction when we do it virtually than in person. Yet, thank you to the technology today, and there are a lot of vendors who actually skilled themselves in organizing online team events and team buildings to be more and more attractive and more engaging. I think it's minimizing the lack of human interaction and actually makes easier for the project managers to coordinate and keep motivated global teams.
Sometimes the difficulties or challenges are having a good output. And I'm wondering, what is your view about PM? To be universal PM, let us say he or she is PM who is good in soft skills and methodology and so on, but doesn't know necessarily the area of the project, what he or she is leading, like project manager for HR project, for legal project, finance project. Do you see that specification is needed in order to drive properly different type of projects? Or is better just to be a good PM and to adjust him or herself to this?
And now I'm referring strictly to the project management. I don't see any dependency on the domain or where happens the project linked to the project manager knowledge of that particular domain. In my vision, the project manager is the most fluid profile and the most flexible profile on the whole job family catalog, that those skills, they don't change if I'm dealing with a finance project or with an HR project or with an R&D project. The core skills for the project manager: methodology, communication, stakeholder management, engagement. These are the core capabilities that can be applied independent of the domain. So to answer your question very short, no, I don't see any dependency. An ideal project manager can drive different types of projects across the table without any issues.
And what about certifications? Some people say that it's good if a PM has a certification like PMP or some agile certification. Other people say that this is not important. What is your view on that? And if certification is needed or somebody has, what is the advantage of having it?
There are two aspects that we can look at this question. And I'll go first with the personal one, and then I will shift to the more complex answer or more complex approach. Me personally, I don't believe in the power of a paper. You can come and stack in front of me 20 certifications, and I will look at them and I will say, you just killed 500 trees. I don't appreciate that. As long as you lived and you built your experience in applying those methodologies, a piece of paper doesn't tell me much about you. I trust that you learned it, yet in the last 5 years, how many times did you apply it? So from this perspective, a certification doesn't really move me. Now, if we go in a bit more complex answer, depending on the certification, the individual will go through a minimal of 1, 2, 3, or up to 1 year study period. And we know PMP, it's kind of the PhD in the world of project management. Of course, puts in some experience, and you need to build your project and you need to build your case, and it's helping the person to focus on different aspects that they are recommended by the methodology and to apply them. So from this perspective, each certification comes with some experience, brings some extra knowledge to the project manager, gives different angles of looking how would be better to deliver this project. Yet, if they are not living and not executing what is being learned through those classes, then down the road is just a piece of paper. So if I will have to combine the two answers into one, an ideal candidate will be a project manager who is certified in delivering or applying different methodologies with a proven track record of successful deliveries by using those.
Yes, I agree with this, especially that if you do the certification only to have the theoretical knowledge, I know that bodies are asking for experience also, but you can show experience just to get the certification and then you have a paper, you don't become a better project manager. What I think is that having a certification like PMP, if multiple people have PMP certification, then probably it helps in speaking the same language. So if they are communicating, they can think in the same structure. But I fully agree if they are applying the methodologies, not only just to have a paper for them. What I'm also wondering, if you look a little bit to the past and present and future, how do you see did project management, especially in the BSCs, changed over the years? And whether you see that it will change in the future. So what trends do you experience or do you notice some trends in the project management, especially in the BSc area?
Would you help me to narrow down?
What I have in mind that whether, I don't know, just as an example, whether PMs are more experienced nowadays in the BSCs driving projects than 5 years ago, whether I know the agile technology methodology came in, whether the PM role changed in the meantime, whether you see it will change due to technology, new trends like agile methodology or let us say artificial intelligence. So how do you see this?
Definitely the project managers more skilled and more fluid. I really like this word because from my perspective really describes at best the best of a project manager. When we started living maybe around 4 or 5 years ago, agile methodology started to be quite a strong trend. And prior to that, everything was very methodical. You had your gates, you had your project plan, you need to make this, everybody signs off. Now, when agility as a way of working entered in the market, didn't come in as a small wave. It was a massive tsunami. It was either you do it, you ride with it, you cannot fight it. And this is what we noticed from the PM side and the PM community here in Hungary. They started embracing, applying, learning, studying it. And in matters of maybe 1.5 years, the market pool for project managers were already updated and very familiar with the agile methodologies. Now, Scrum was the first big thing, and not even 1.5 years afterwards, the new big thing is SAFe, is the Scale Agile framework. Has base of agility inside, but a different mindset. So again, I noticed the project managers scaling themselves up in these new methodologies and how can be better implemented in the projects that they are already driving in the Scrum framework. So what will be the future? I don't know, but we can have the same podcast in 1.5 years' time and we'll see what's the new trend. Definitely we live in a very, very dynamic environment and everybody's striving for efficiency, for faster implementations, faster results, and better. And I think that's the key word, how we can make it better and faster.
We also fixed a new episode with you in 1 year, 1.5 years to discuss this. Regarding case studies and success stories, so do you have in mind some concrete example where an external PM involvement often had significant contribution to a BSc project, or even how to say negative experience, what you see that is a kind of lessons learned and you can share with us and the audience in order that we learn out of that?
I'm happy to say that I don't have one example for a success story. I have 99% of the experiences as positive example. And I think this goes back to the quality of the people that we managed to source. And there were certain projects where we actually brought the person, the project manager, to help us for a short or medium term. And I'm speaking here about 3 to 6 months. We needed somebody to step in and help and steer back the project team into the right direction, or support the internal project manager with the activities in order to steer it back. And based on their contribution and how fast we managed to put in the right direction the project, convinced us that, okay, we would like to have these individuals with us for a longer period through the whole project until the go live. And there were quite a few cases where the support was felt immediately. It always helps to have a fresh set of eyes when somebody comes new, no idea of how we operate, why we do, and they start challenging. Can you please ask me or tell me why is this happening in this way and not the other way? And through that contribution and through those challenges, it helped us to really take the corrective actions much faster and really have a successful implementation. There are also cases where the project manager was selected from the beginning for the project rollout, and it really helped us to start doing certain things in different ways, because he was presenting a way of implementation that maybe we didn't consider it before. We are a fairly old company. We have a lot of historical reasons why we do certain activities. And yes, a new, a fresh set of eyes, a fresh mindset is always welcome. So these are only two of the examples that I can bring for the positive aspects. Yeah, there is no forest without a sick tree. And one case that somehow got stuck into my mind, it had to do with compatibility or personal compatibility between two project management colleagues. If there is no chemistry and no right communication or very strict separation of roles and responsibilities, in that particular case, it started as a small burning fire. Well, it was not even a fire, it was more like some smoke. Okay, we see the smoke, but no flame yet. We count on their seniority to come up to an agreement and a way to move forward. And here comes in play also the personality and the cultural background. There are cases when, as much as you want, there is purely no click. And in those kind of scenarios, you need to separate the two parties. And for the greater goal of the project, we're going to try with another match. Or if even that one doesn't work, we're going to change the whole project delivery management layer.
Yes, coming to this point, connecting to this point, what you just mentioned, do you have any advice to the BSCs when they are selecting project managers or external project managers regarding filtering, interviewing, in order that the selection is successful?
The only advice I can give, make sure that who you are selecting identifies with the values of your company, and make sure that next to the methodology, they have a very strong people management skill and communication skill. And I dare here to put quite a high percentage in my statement. 100% of the issues that they were faced could have been fixed if the communication skill and the management skill, the soft skills, were stronger than the technical skills, methodology related ones.
I agree also with this one. So for a project manager, the communication and stakeholder management and generally the soft skills are very important.
And we also need to be aware that project managers are not a junior type of profiles, and everybody has their own ego, they have their own personality. And sometimes because they want to make a good impression and they want to stand behind their words, it's actually causing a bit more damage than actually solving a very not so big issue at that moment.
So this comes also to the personality, not to be rigid, but to adjust to the situation and to be flexible on that. So Adrian, thank you very much for the conversation. I think you really gave very good and useful information to me and I hope for the audience. So thank you again for coming.
Thank you very much for the invitation. It was a pleasure. Always nice to have a nice discussion with you. And I hope the audience heard certain messages that they already identify with or different angles that they can look in regards of a collaboration with an external partner.
I hope so. Thank you. Kedves hallgatók, köszönjük szépen, hogy részt vettetek a mai epizódban. Remélem, hogy hasznos információkkal gazdagodtatok. Bármilyen témajavaslatotok van, kommentetek, szívesen látjuk, és várunk titeket a következő epizódokban is. Köszönjük, hogy velünk voltál a PMO Klub első podcast adásában. Ha szeretnél további projektportfólió PMO jellegű beszélgetést hallgatni, vagy aktívan megosztani tapasztalataidat, tagja lenni egy erős szakmai klubnak, lépj be a PMO Klub csoportjába, amit LinkedIn-en és a Profexec oldalán, pontosabban a pmoklub.profexec.com-on találsz, de a leírásban is megtalálod a linket hozzájuk. Hamarosan pedig újra jelentkezünk egy újabb adással. Ne maradj le, iratkozz fel kedvenc podcast lejátszódon műsorunkra. A műsorvezető Sándor Zoltán ezzel megköszöni szíves figyelmed a mielőbbi viszonthallásra.